Okay, we are still in review mode from Algebra 1. Chapter 4 will probably be, well, Chapter 3 might have some new stuff too, but this will be hopefully the last chapter where we're kind of going over things from Algebra 1. But it's just really important that you have this foundation as we're going into Algebra 2. So this section today is just on slope, and then how to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Okay, on the wall somewhere, yeah, in the third poster over, it shows you standard form, slope-intercept form, and point-slope form. So slope-intercept form, again, is the form that when you look directly at it, you can tell me what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. What does the y-intercept mean?
It's like where it crosses the, or like where it crosses y.
Where it crosses the y-axis, the y-intercept, yep. So it says slope-intercept form, it doesn't say slope y-intercept form, but that's really what it means. It's not slope x-intercept form. It's telling you where the y-intercept is and what the slope of the line is. So if I have 2 points, on this line, and this point is 2, 2, and this one is 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 7. There are a couple of ways you can find the slope. Yes, there is a formula, but my concern is you guys start taking the ACT and you forget the formula. And then you get that confused with midpoint formula, and you get it confused with distance formula, and which one's the slope formula, and then you have no chance of doing well.
Y equals mx plus b.
That's the equation of the line. That's not the equation of slope. Okay, so slope we always reference as m, and the equation is x2. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. But I really don't like you to think about the equation and memorize it, because you're going to forget it. Something we memorize, typically we don't retain. So what I want you to think about with slope, it's rise over run. Okay, if I'm going to travel up the mountains and I want to know the slope, you know, a lot of times if any of you have gone into Colorado and gone past Eisenhower Tunnel on I-70, you'll see a 10% grade sign or 6% grade next 7 miles. Well, grade is the same as slope. It's how much it's going up versus over how much it's going over. Rise over run. Okay, and when you deal with the coordinate system with the axes that are x and y, rise is always y, right? Up or down is your y coordinate. Right or left is your x coordinate. That's your run, is the x. Rise is y over run. So it wants to know how much it's risen or fallen divided by how much it's gone left or right. That's what this means in words. Okay, so rather than try and memorize that formula, I just want you to think of rise over run. Okay, so one way I could do this is I've got 2 points. I could just write in this triangle, and I could count the units. It's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units this direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units this direction. Okay? From this point to this point, is this direction up or down? Up. Is this direction right or left? Right. So those are both positive numbers. Okay? So the slope, rise over run.
On the NWEA, when they ask you like the distance between,
That's a distance formula. That's not slope.
Okay,
Mm-mm. Yeah, we'll work on the distance formula, but this is rise over run, slope. Okay. Now, if I wanted to use the formula, y2, I'm just going to call this point 1, this point 2. y2 is 7, y1 is 2, x2 is 8, x1 is 2. Same thing. Okay, but what are your odds 3 months, 6 months from now? This equation is just going to come to your mind. Not as good as just understanding what slope means. It means how far I go up or down divided by how far I go right or left. Okay, if I see it going up from left to right, the line, I know the slope is positive. If it's going down from left to right, that should be a negative slope. So that's a really good check for you to do when you're checking your work on NWEA or on ACT eventually, is if you calculate the slope and you get a positive number and your line's going down from left to right, it might be a good hint to redo your math because something's wrong. Okay, if it's going down from left to right, you know it's going to be a negative slope. Yes?
What does ACT stand for? I forgot.
I don't know. Achievement, college,
Action,
I don't know.
tools.
Okay, so questions about how you find slope. You can either do it this method or you can use the formula, as long as you understand what it means so that if you forget the formula, you can still calculate it. Okay, now we'll talk about how to write equations in slope-intercept form. This is the process you're going to go through. We'll use these 2 points. Okay, 2, 2, and 8, 7. I found the slope to be 5/6, right? And the slope is m. So I can rewrite this equation like this. When I'm all finished with all the math and I want to write an equation in slope-intercept form, y and x will stay variables, b should be a number, m should be a number. Okay, the problem right now is I don't know b. And I've got 3 variables. How can I figure out what b is?
You have to solve for B.
Okay, how do I solve for b?
You get B by itself.
True, but how can I find b as a number with what I have right here?
Graph 5, 6, and you like a line.
Okay, so I could use the slope and just say, okay, from this point to this point, it's got to be 5 units down and 6 over and kind of see where it crosses the y-axis. And that could work, because remember, b is the y-intercept. It'll work as long as that y-intercept's an integer. But if that y-intercept happens to be a fraction, it's going to be really hard for you to pinpoint what that fraction is, unless you do it algebraically. So it's possible that you could see what the y-intercept is just using the slope. And just going down 5/6, down 5/6, see where it crosses the y-axis. Your drawing, your graph has to be pretty perfect if you're doing it by hand to really find where it crosses the y-intercept or the y-axis. Okay? So the way we do it mathematically is you pick either point. Doesn't matter which one. I usually pick the one with the easier numbers, so I'll probably pick 2, 2. Okay? You're going to plug in. Remember, 2, 2 stands for an x value and a y value. So I'm going to plug in 2 for y, 2, and I'll just make it over 1 just so I can keep my fractions in order. Okay? Now I've got everything filled in except for b, and I can solve. Okay? So I'll simplify. 10/6 is 5/3. Now I've got to subtract 5/3. Well, to do that, this is also 6/3, right? Get that common denominator. 6/3, subtract 5/3. I now know b. And that would have been hard for me to see on the y-intercept. If that line crossed, for me to say it was 1/3 over 1/5 over 1/2, it would have been tough. Okay, I know b, so I write my equation now. That's the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points. Your first step is to find the slope. Your second step is to plug in the slope and one of the points you're given. Okay, sometimes it'll say, find the equation of the line with the slope of 3 that goes through the point 5/6. Well, that's the only choice you have. You have to use 5/6 to plug in for x and y. So the harder ones are when they give you 2 points, because then you actually have to find the slope. They don't give it to you. If they give you a point, let's say they gave us 0.8 as one of our points. How much math is it going to take me to find the y-intercept? What's the point 0.8? Where would it be on the axes? Picture it in your mind. Where would it be? If I plotted that point on the x and y axis.
Just be update.
So it would be on the y-axis, right? So that's your y-intercept, right? So if you're ever given a point where x is 0, you don't have to do this math. You can, it'll take you more time, but if the ACT gives you 2 points and one of them is a 0 comma something, hopefully you recognize that's the y-intercept. So all you have to do is find the slope, and then you've got your m and your b. You don't have to do any more math. You see what I mean? So look for that, because that may be something they do. They're trying to get the kids that are ready to move on. They're giving them a hint, and those that don't quite get it are going to have to find the slope and then do all the math to find the intercept. Hello? Hi. Yeah, let me finish talking, lecturing to them, and then I'll send them down. Thank you. Bye. Corey and Tanner in just a minute. You need to go see Chauncey. Yeah, you can go. I'll keep Tanner for just a minute. So I just want to emphasize that point. Find the equation of the line that goes through these 2 points. First thing I'm going to do is find the slope. I could just quickly plot these points. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 0, 3. Okay, if I want to use the triangle method, it goes up 4 and it goes over 3, so I know my slope is 4/3. If I want to use the formula, it's 3 minus 7, 0 minus 3. Same thing. Okay, either method, whatever you are most comfortable with, just know if you can consistently use the formula, then make sure you memorize the formula for years. You don't just forget it. Okay, so there's my slope. I could go through the motion of doing this whole 4/3 x plus b, and I could plug 3, 7 in. But why would you do that? We have 0, 3 given to us. That's the equation of the line. Okay, so be on the lookout for problems like that where they give you the y-intercept, and they're not going to tell you the big arrow y-intercept. But if you recognize the y-intercept always happens when x is 0, that'll shave 15 seconds, 30 seconds off of doing that problem on the ACT. And really, you have 60 minutes to do the ACT, which is on average 1 minute a question. The first 10 are going to be the easiest. They gradually get harder. The last 10 are going to be the hardest and take the most time. So if you spend your full minute on the first 10 every question, you're definitely not going to finish. So we're always constantly looking for faster ways to solve problems. I could have done it the long way and plugged that point in and solved for B and wasted 15 seconds, which doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of an hour it is. Or I could have just recognized that's the y-intercept. I know the equation. I can look at my multiple choice answers. Maybe only one of them has 3 as my y-intercept. Maybe I didn't even need to find the slope. You know what I mean? You have 4 questions or 4 answers, and only one of them shows 3 as the y-intercept. I don't even need to find the slope. Pick that one and move on. You know what I'm saying? You've got to start getting in the mindset of knowing some of these tricks so that you can finish. All right, if you want to go down, you can. All right, textbook check or web work is open. TK12 for extra credit should be there too.
When I get back,